Hi everyone, today I'm going to be making a little felted daffodil. I'm going to be using a pipe cleaner for the stem and some yellow merino, 2 different shades for the petals. So I'm just going to fold the tip over one end and I'm going to cut it to length. I don't want it that long. I'm only going to do a little daffodil, so to that. And then again I'm just going to fold the very tip over at the bottom and pinch it together. I'm going to take some of the green and starting halfway down the stem, I'm just going to wrap the green around. Go back up this way. I don't want it too thick, so I'm keeping the strips quite thin. Once you've wrapped your stem and you're happy with it, put it aside and I'm going to start making the petals. So you want 6 petals for the daffodil, and if you cut out a rough template of how big you want them to be, when you're needle felting them you can try and get them the same sort of shape. I only want little petals. I'm only going to do a small daffodil, so I really don't want much wool at all. So I'm going to measure out 6 amounts fairly equally before I start. I'm using a clover pen that's got 3 needles in it, and it just makes it a bit quicker than using 1 needle, but you can use 1 needle. I am going to be wet felting these in a minute. Always remember that when you wet felt a shape or whatever piece you're doing, a picture, it will shrink down. You've got to bear that in mind. So I am going to make these shapes. I've got a bit of green on there. Don't want that. I am going to make these shapes a little bit bigger than the template, but it just gives you an idea of the right size. I'll do another one. So once you have your little petals, spend a minute or two just going around the very edges, like I've done with these ones, just to get a neat sort of edge. So we're not felting at an angle, but we're just dragging the edges over and then felting them in. You have 6 petal shapes, pretty much the same size and shape. Put them aside for a minute and we'll create the centre part of the daffodil. I'm going to just break up some of the orangey yellow and crisscross it like so. So it's sort of a starry shape. And then I'm just going to felt just a little bit. So now we'll move on to the wet felting. All you need is a bamboo mat, a little one like this that you can get off eBay for a couple of pounds. And then on top of that, just going to lay a scrap piece of bubble wrap. And then lay out the piece or pieces that you want to wet felt. And then you just need a piece of mesh that you can get from any haberdashery and lay over the top. And then what I've got here is just a little bit of water and a few drops of washing up liquid, and I like to use this one. This is just the one that I always have in my house, and it works really well, I think. And I'm literally just gonna, you can use a sponge, but I'm just gonna put some of the water. You don't need to saturate it. And as these are just shapes, if you were doing a piece of art, then you'd actually rub the whole piece to help the fibres stick together before you roll. As you are just rolling shapes, so we can just take off our mesh and roll your mat up with the bubble wrap on really tightly. Put your pieces in now. And then you just take your elastic band or a hairband. I'm just using a hairband over it. And then we're just going to roll. So you don't even have to roll that hard. It's 50 times. And then I'm going to take the pieces off. And I'm actually just going to felt them now using the bamboo mat. Once you've rolled them again, don't worry if some of them have lost their shape or have changed shape, because we're going to just reshape them a bit in a minute. Like this one has gone a bit of a long sort of shaped petal, so just pull some of the fibres apart. The whole point in the wet felting is to make them more durable. I mean, you don't have to wet felt, you could just needle felt them as they were, but I think they look better once they've been wet felted. And if you can just see what I'm doing, just shape them while it's still wet with your fingers into little petals. If some are quite a lot bigger, like that, because we have wet felted, you know, you can cut them if you need to, and they won't fray. We're just going to put them to one side, and we're going to make the centre of the daffodil. So taking your piece of orangey yellow that you wet felted, we're just going to fold really little folds back on itself, going around. And then when you unroll it, it should look something like that. And then we're just going to make it go around that way. Join the two ends. And we're going to cut off any excess. And then we're just going to needle felt those two ends together. If you needle felt from the inside out, and then you won't lose any of your shape. So this just creates your little cup for the inside of the daffodil. Now we're just going to attach the flower to the stem. Starting off with the middle section, you want to cut the bottom part off so you've got a little hole for the stem to go through, and you want to push it up through the bottom like so, and then you can needle felt it over a little bit. So now we're going to need to use a little bit of glue just to secure the flower to the stem. I really like this Aleene's tacky glue. It dries really quickly and it sticks the felt together. Once your glue is dry for the centre part of the daffodil, you can start attaching the leaves on the outside. And you don't have to sew them on, you can use some more of the glue, just dab a little bit around the bottom and start sticking on to your daffodil one at a time. I am actually going to sew these on. I'm just going to anchor the cotton on with a blanket stitch at the base, and I'm going to go through, and then I'm just going to one at a time stitch the petals on, going through the stem to the other side. And the next one. And then just readjust the petals as to how you want them. So now we're just going to use a little bit of the beige colour merino to cover over the stitches behind the flower. So just want to hold it in place with one hand, and we're just going to wrap up, and it just tidies up the base of the flower, and we just needle felt that over. So that's it. You could use these little daffodils on Easter bonnets, or just as a little Easter gift or thank you card to somebody. You can make other flowers the same way as well, and I hope you found this video useful. Be sure to check back to the wishing shed for future tutorials and needle felting tips.